Hi Year 3, so it is Tuesday today and we're going to continue our learning on myths and also speech punctuation. So for yesterday and today we are focusing on the myth of Pandora's box. Now if you haven't done yesterday's lesson, I probably would recommend to do yesterday's lesson or to at least try and just watch the video so you can hear the whole myth. I'm not going to read the whole myth today, I'm just going to read a little section of it. So yeah, if you haven't done yesterday's, you might need to watch yesterday's video, kind of listen to what the task was, and then come back to today and do today's task. So you will need from yesterday your speech bubbles that you wrote from what Pandora and Epimetheus were saying. So make sure you've got your speech bubbles ready. And our LO today is to use speech punctuation to punctuate direct speech. Okay, and that will become clear in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do as a little bit of a warm-up is you will need a piece of paper and you're going to have 1 minute to write down as many reporting clauses as you can that might be used in this section of speech. So first of all, can you remember what do I mean by a reporting clause? What is a reporting clause? Okay, have a little think. Now, I might say that some of us use the reporting clause said a little bit too much in our writing. Okay, so said is a reporting clause. Said Mrs. Tiernan. Now, we also know, don't we, that there are lots of more interesting and exciting reporting clauses that we could use. For example, we might say shouted, or we might say whispered, or we might say sang. Okay, but we're thinking of reporting clauses today that we could use in this conversation that you planned out yesterday. You did the role play within the speech bubbles between Pandora and Epimetheus. So would we be saying that they were whispering or that they were singing? I don't think we would. We might be saying that they might be shouting or Pandora might be demanding something. Okay, so have a think. What kind of words, what kind of reporting clauses might be appropriate to their conversation? I'm going to be writing mine down on a piece of paper like this. So I've written reporting clauses in the middle, okay, and around the outside, I'm just going to put all of my ideas. Okay, so pause the video, set yourself a timer if you can of 1 minute, or just kind of spend a little bit of time doing this, and then press play, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so here are some of my ideas. I've got responded, whined, demanded, whinged, argued, sulked, nagged, disagreed, answered, shouted and replied. And if you want to add any of these to your ideas, that's absolutely fine. I'm sure you've got some other ones, some different ones as well. So what you want to have by the end of this warm-up is a big selection of reporting clauses to use in your conversation today. Okay, so we've got that bank of words, reporting clauses ready that will help you later in the lesson. So we're just going to recap the part of the myth which we're going to be focusing on today. Obviously, it's the conversation between Pandora and Epimetheus, as I've already said, the speech bubbles that you wrote yesterday, and the role play that you did to help. So let's just have a look at that part of the myth. Pandora was vain and self-centred. She nagged her husband constantly. "I want clothes!" She demanded he opened a special locked box. Epimetheus refused. "Open that box at once, you old miser. I know it is full of jewels." As Prometheus had entrusted the box to his care. "Not even for you, O joy of my heart." In that box was trapped every known evil and disease. But her husband's stubbornness made Pandora more determined. "Give! No! It's mine! No!" Convinced the box held jewels, she planned to see it. "I'll just sit here and wait then." Okay, so that's just that little part that we're focusing on, the conversation that happened when Pandora was trying to persuade Epimetheus to open the box and he was saying no. He promised Prometheus it's not to be opened, and we know why. It was full of evil. Okay, so we're going to recap now, before we write out our conversation using speech punctuation, the special rules of speech. Now, we have done lots of work when we've been in school together on speech punctuation. Do you remember we wrote out conversation using different coloured pieces of paper, and you had one character speaking on one colour, the other character speaking on the other colour, and we added in lots of speech punctuation to that. So all throughout the year we have been focusing and thinking about this. So this isn't new, but we might need a little bit of a reminder. So I'd like you to pause the video. If there's someone there to talk to them about the rules of speech. If not, just think for yourself. Can you think of 4 or 5 different things that you must do when you're using speech punctuation? What are our rules of speech? So if you can come up with 4 or even 5. Okay, so I'm sure that you have come up with them, or maybe you're missing a couple. That's okay, we're going to go through them together. So rule number 1, okay, when you're writing out speech, we must use inverted commas. Okay, they used to be called speech marks, we call them inverted commas, and they must come before and after what is being said. Okay, so starting by focusing on our first speech bubble from yesterday. What could be inside this box? Could it be full of glittering robes, dazzling jewels, or even diamonds? So Pandora is saying that. So we're going to put this now, write it out as part of a conversation with those inverted. Okay, so there we go. Before the first word that is being said by Pandora, what, we have got an inverted comma, and after the last word she says in this section, which is diamonds, we've got an inverted comma. Okay, so before and after what the character is saying. Okay, so rule number 2. Your speech inside the speech punctuation, inside those inverted commas, must always start with a capital letter. Okay, so the first word that Pandora was saying was what. Okay, and if we just look here, we've got a capital W starting off the sentence. So it's the beginning of the sentence, but whenever somebody starts to speak, first word must start with a capital letter. Okay, third rule of speech punctuation. We must have some form of punctuation before the closing inverted comma, and this is the one that sometimes we forget. Okay, so we have the first inverted comma, whatever's being said, and then before that closing inverted comma, we've got to have some form of punctuation. It might be a question mark if it's a question. It could be an exclamation mark if that would work. Otherwise, it's a comma generally, or if it's the end of the sentence, then it's a full stop. But if we're going to continue with our reporting clause, then it would be a comma. Okay, I'll show you on my example. Okay, so can you see after the word diamonds, before that closing inverted comma, we have got a question mark. That is because Pandora is asking a question. Okay, so here I've highlighted in green now the things that are part of those speech rules, the inverted commas and the closing punctuation. If we move down to Epimetheus' response, I have purposely missed out that end punctuation. So you know that we are not allowed to open it. We're guarding it for Prometheus. We've got our inverted commas. We haven't got any punctuation. Just have a little think. What would be appropriate to go there? Okay, you know that we are not allowed to open it. We are guarding it for Prometheus, replied Epimetheus. Okay, so I probably would just put a comma there. You could put an exclamation mark. Okay, so I guess he might be sort of shouting it at Pandora, we're not sure. It's your conversation, so you can decide that he is. I'm just going to put a comma. It's not a full stop because we're going to go on to say, replied Epimetheus, and then we've got our full stop. So this for me is going to be a comma. There we go. Okay, so we've got our comma in there, and again the green speech punctuation rules so far. Okay, so our next rule of speech is that we need to make sure that we're using a reporting clause. So we've got all of those ready to go from our warm-up, okay, but we need to make sure it can come before the speech of reporting clause or it can come after. So in my examples here, I've had questioned Pandora and replied Epimetheus. Those are the reporting clauses. I'll show you them now. Okay, so there we go in green, questioned Pandora and replied Epimetheus. They are the reporting clauses that I chose to use this time. And finally, our fifth rule of speech for today is thinking about when a new character starts speaking, we start a new line. Okay, so Pandora starts, so she's got that first section of speech. Question Pandora, we need a new line because Epimetheus is then speaking. Okay, after Epimetheus speaks and Pandora replies, a new line again. So each time a different character speaks, we must start a new line. Okay, there you can see after question Pandora, I've got a full stop and then I start a new line. You know that we are not allowed to open it. Okay, so here you can see the whole first part of the conversation written out. And I'm just going to go through this second section here and highlight it in green with you so you can see exactly what we're looking for, like if I was marking green in your work in school. Okay, so thinking of those rules of speech, we have got inverted comma before Pandora speaks, and at the end of what she is saying. I need new clothes, more jewellery, open it now. We've got our punctuation before that closing inverted comma. I've used an exclamation mark because she's demanding it, she's shouting it. We've now got our reporting clause, demanded Pandora. Okay, and then I start a new line for Epimetheus' line because a different character is speaking. So again, so we've got here, for this one, we've got our opening inverted comma, I wish I could, but I gave him my word, and our closing inverted comma, and then our punctuation here, comma, okay, and then our reporting clause, Epimetheus said. I have you said, but I've expanded it by saying standing up to his stubborn wife, adding extra information, and my full stop is there. And finally, new line, different character is speaking, inverted comma, open that box at once. I know it is full of jewels, closing inverted comma, punctuation, exclamation mark, and our reporting clause, argued Pandora. And for Epimetheus' next line, I would be starting a new line here. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling confident to go and have a go at this task. So use your speech bubbles from yesterday, write out the conversation on an A4 piece of paper, using those rules of speech punctuation. As you go through each one, think to yourself, tick them off. Have I used inverted commas in the right places? Have I used some punctuation before the closing inverted comma? Have I started my speech with a capital letter? Have I used a reporting clause? And have I started a new line when somebody else is speaking? So just keep checking your work for those 5 speech rules. Also, if you wanted any reminders or anything, there is a sheet on our webpage today which has just got this task outlined and a little example, a little waggle as well. Okay, so good luck, enjoy. If you want to email your teacher a copy of your conversation with speech punctuation, that would be great. Don't forget to use your reporting clauses and enjoy the lessons for the rest of the week. Okay, have good luck.